Imagine standing on a muddy battlefield, the smell of gunpowder thick in the air, your musket shaking in your hands. You've been awake for days, your stomach empty, your boots soaked, and your nerves shattered. You're not a grizzled veteran. You're 16 years old, and you just lied about your age to get here. This was the life of a Civil War soldier, and I promise you, it was far from glorious. Welcome to Beyond History. If you love uncovering the untold struggles of the past, hit that subscribe button and join us as we step straight into the blood, mud, and heartbreak of the 1860s. The Civil War was the deadliest conflict in American history. Over 2.7 million soldiers fought across 237 named battles, not counting countless skirmishes and smaller clashes that were just as bloody. But here's the part that might surprise you. Nearly 500,000 of them were boys. In the North, around 420,000 soldiers were under 17. In the South, about 100,000 were under 15. Why would children risk everything for a war many didn't even fully understand? For most, it wasn't about politics or slavery. It was about escaping the monotony of farm life. Lincoln's original call for a quick 90-day enlistment sounded like an adventure. Fight, come home a hero, and tell your story. But that short tour turned into years of relentless fighting. And once you were in, getting out was almost impossible. So how did boys so young even get in? They bent the rules creatively. Enlistment required you to be over 18. But that didn't stop them. Some wrote the number 18 on the sole of their shoe so that when asked, they could technically say, "I'm over 18." Others just lied outright, no IDs or birth certificates to check. And if a recruiting officer seemed suspicious, a father's word could seal the deal. Not every boy carried a rifle. Many joined as drummers, buglers, stretcher bearers, or water carriers. But don't be fooled, battlefields didn't discriminate. Whether you had a musket or a drumstick, you were still in harm's way. General William Sherman famously said, "War is hell." He wasn't exaggerating. Take the Battle of Gettysburg, July 1st, 1863. Confederate soldiers marched in neat lines, straight into Union fire. In minutes, entire companies were obliterated. One Confederate officer called it a noble and gallant death. Survivors told a different story of crouching in mud, praying for the nightmare to stop, watching friends drop lifeless at their side. In one volley alone, 79 men were killed instantly. One soldier later wrote, "Great God, when will this stop?" If you survived the bullets, you still had to fight hunger. Official rations pork, bread, beans, coffee sounded decent on paper. Reality was different. Union soldiers fared better, but Confederates often lived on little more than cornbread and whatever they could steal or trade. Insects infested supplies within days. Hunger drove men to desperate bargains, Union coffee for Confederate tobacco, exchanged quietly between enemy lines when officers weren't looking. Here's a chilling fact. You were more likely to die from disease than from bullets. Dysentery, diarrhea, typhoid, these killed tens of thousands. The Union alone lost 44,000 men to dysentery. That's more than 10 times the death toll at Gettysburg. Medical knowledge was primitive. Doctors didn't sterilize equipment. Amputations, over 60,000 of them, were done with unwashed saws. 1 in 4 patients died from infection. And if you were hit in battle, you might lie in the dirt for hours, hoping a horse-drawn ambulance found you before you bled out. Whiskey was the only pain relief you could hope for. The role of black soldiers in the Civil War was complicated and often tragic. The Confederacy, terrified of arming enslaved men, used them mostly for labor until the war's final desperate weeks. The Union at first was hardly better. Black soldiers weren't enlisted until 1862, and even then, they were paid less. A white private earned $13 a month plus clothing. A black private, $10, minus a $3 clothing deduction. And yet, tens of thousands served with honor, proving themselves in battle despite the injustice. When soldiers weren't fighting, they drilled. Endless marching, guard duty, and weapon cleaning filled the hours. Private Theodore Garish recalled early training as Chaos Drum Corps out of sync, soldiers marching in every direction, some even standing still as others ran. Days blurred together. Sleep came in stolen moments. Arms ached from firing rifles that weighed nearly 10 pounds. Confederate Private Sam Watkins fired 120 rounds in a single day, leaving his arm battered and bruised from wrist to shoulder. Sometimes the muskets grew so hot the powder ignited before the bullet was loaded. One thing soldiers clung to was writing letters. They wrote to wives, parents, and sweethearts trying and often failing to describe the horrors they'd seen. Union Captain Charles Carroll Maury described nearly getting shot point blank. I dropped down out of his sight just in time to hear his bullet whistle over my head. Praise God for his goodness in sparing my life. These letters are more than historical documents. They're windows into the minds of men who lived in constant fear, yet found moments of humor, hope, and even joy in the bleakest circumstances. Life as a Civil War soldier was not the romantic adventure young men imagined when they enlisted. It was mud, hunger, disease, and death day after day. Yet in the middle of that misery, there were moments of bravery, humanity, and resilience that still echo through history. So, here's the question. If you were 16, bored on a farm in 1861, would you have signed up? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Beyond History for more stories that bring the past to life, uncensored, unfiltered, and unforgettable.